If you're still unsure about what the best business model is in 2025, I'm going to show you exactly why credit repair and funding is the best business model that you can look at as somebody who's done all these business models here. Amazon FBA, Airbnb, day trading, and a subscription Discord, and credit repair and funding. And I'm not somebody who just failed at all three of these and I'm telling you why this is the best business model. I've had success in all these business models. I've done $1.5 million a year with this business model, FBA and Walmart. I've done $300,000 with Airbnb, $500,000, $600,000 with the subscription-based Discord. And I've done about $600,000 or so in the last 12 months with credit repair and funding, and I've only been doing it for about 14 months full time now. Okay, one thing I can tell you guys is across all of these business models, the cool thing is that they're all fully online for the most part. Airbnb is not fully online in the beginning, but eventually it does become an online business. Reason being is when you're first starting, you're gonna need to go in person to the location, whether it's in your city or outside of your city, and set up that unit yourself. Okay? Technically, you could hire someone to do it from the beginning, but like anybody who's starting a business, you're probably gonna have your own boots on the ground and do things yourself so you can get an idea of how the business model works and learn about the process. Okay? With Amazon FBA, the one thing I really liked is it was faceless. You didn't need to show your face to operate the business, to really sell your products because Amazon has a platform of 300 million users or whatever it is. Okay, so faceless, right? Fully online. Another pro of this business was that it was, what would it be? Well, these are really the two only pros I would say. But they're pretty good pros, right? They're fully online, faceless, can hire a VA to delegate the work. To delegate. So that's a big factor in any business because ultimately you want to be able to step away from the business, have the business running itself without you being there in person. All right, here's a lot of the cons to Amazon. Lots of overhead. Okay. If you want to make $30,000 a month with Amazon, you're going to have to do anywhere from $150,000 to $180,000 in revenue per month, okay? The average margin in the Amazon world is somewhere between 8 to 20%. Now, there's a couple operators that say they do 25 to 30%. I don't know how true that is, but I would say across the board, most people are operating at about a 15% margin. Okay, that's on average across all the people that I've talked to, right? I have a lot of friends in the space. It's about 15 to 20%, 20%, potentially 25% during the holidays where the margins get really, really good because the prices spike up. All right, lots of overhead. And at one point during Amazon FBA, I was only working 5 hours a week. Okay. Now, mind you, you can't just start off with 5 hours a week. You need to put a lot of time in the beginning, delegate the tasks out, and then you can get to a point where you're just working a low number of hours, right? That's technically a pro. I'm going to list the cons. Lots of overhead, lots of slippage, okay? So in the Amazon world, you're going to get a lot of situations where you buy products, you send them in, and then they get lost. And sometimes Amazon will cover them, or sometimes it gets lost without ever getting shipped to your warehouse. You need to keep really, really detailed notes and tracking of where your product is, how much you've spent, have you received the product, if it's been sent to Amazon, has it been received by Amazon, or are there some units missing, because that is going to come out of your bottom line. And then lastly, the biggest con is Section 3 violations. Okay, this was the one that really turned me off and why I stopped selling. There came a point where Amazon was just spending people and they would essentially wipe out 6 months of profit. And what I mean by that is, let's just say you're buying $50,000 of inventory a month. You're probably doing about $100,000 in revenue and taking home anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000. Now, here's the problem. If they hold your money and $50,000 worth of inventory, right? You're set back for a really long time because now you're in generational debt and they just literally have the worst customer service ever, can't get anybody on the phone, they won't accept your invoices, or they just stop accepting your appeals. And there's services out there that charge thousands of dollars and don't even guarantee that you're gonna get your money and your product back. Now, I had a situation where I had $45,000 of product. It was salt. I made a killing on Celtic salt. Anyways, it was 7,000 bags. I had to pay $3 each to get these removed, maybe 3.5. I lost $25,000 just from taking it out of Amazon for them to ship it back to me, which I then liquidated it on Walmart to get whatever money back. All right, so Amazon, very, very big headache. Now, I loved Amazon when I was building it in 2023 and 2024. Unfortunately, it just got too risky, so that's why I stopped doing it. Airbnb, right? It has way better margins. I would say anywhere from 20 to 45%. And I would say most people operate right around that 35% margin mark. Okay, there are some people that do 45%, 55%. It really depends on the location, how good their setup is, how many people they can actually sleep. One of the secrets to Airbnb is fitting as many beds as possible, because then you can put more guests and it's worth the higher price. And so it really depends on how you operate. The biggest thing with Airbnb, I would say, is it's a hospitality business, right? I hate hospitality business. And I'll tell you why, because there's a lot of people who are constantly complaining about the smallest little details. Hey, this neighborhood's not safe. Meanwhile, it could be in the safest neighborhood. They feel like, oh, but you don't have a gate in the house. Well, there was never a gate to begin with when you saw the listing, so I'm not sure why they're tripping, but they'll make little comments. And if you don't have like a 4.9 rating or above on average, you start to get terrible rankings in the Airbnb SEO. Like one bad review can literally tank your bookings. And so it's really important that every single review that you get is 5 stars or above. And oftentimes you'll have clients be like, oh, great place. I love this place. I'm going to stay here again and give you a 4-star. Not knowing that the 4-star actually hurts you significantly. Okay. 2, I would say platform ban. Anything where you're tied to the platform is a huge risk. All right. So you're putting all this money up with Airbnb. We're arbitraging the leases. So we're renting out the properties to rent out to Airbnb guests. The problem is, if you get banned, you still have to pay the lease, or you're going to default on the lease and your credit's going to get messed up, or they're going to take you to court because you didn't pay. Now, mind you, probably not going to know 12 months. They'll kick you out and you'll have to pay your 2 months of early termination. But anything that has a platform ban risk is very, very risky in my opinion. So I had a situation, I had a listing, I made money on Airbnb. I probably made about 80, 90, $100,000, somewhere around there, 80 to 100. And the problem with that was I had a situation, a grandma booked my house. She let her high school grandson throw a party and he got shot and killed. They suspended my listing for 3 months. I lost $9,000 because I still had to pay rent and I didn't get to rent it out for those 3 months. They tried to sue me. They didn't get anywhere with that lawsuit because I had nothing to do with it. But that was also one of the kind of the light bulb moments for me that I don't want to do this business where they can just, kick me off when I did nothing wrong. I mean, it was their fault. They threw a party. They had minors drinking liquor. My listing specifically said no parties allowed, and they still suspended me, did not let me appeal it. Or I think I just lost the appeal. So still a very profitable business, right? Both are profitable still to this day. It's just not worth the risk for me. Airbnb also does take a lot of money up front. If you want to get a 1-bedroom house and furnish it, it's going to cost you the deposit to get the lease, the first month's rent, and essentially about $5,000 for a 1-bedroom. You can do it cheaper if you use like Facebook Marketplace and things like that, but that's like the general rule of thumb. I had 3-bedroom houses. I was spending about 10 grand per house, okay? Day trading Discord, one of the most profitable businesses I've had. It only really worked like 2-3 hours a day because we, day traders, we were scalpers. You make your money in like an hour or two and you go on with your day, right? So low hours, high margin. I would say our margins were anywhere from 70 to 80%. We did have employees to pay and things like that, contractors. Had to pay subscription fees for LaunchPass, which managed our subscriptions. But this was a really cool business. This was the first business I ever did in 2021. I learned so much from it on how everything works, how to get clients, how to increase intention rates. This taught me a lot about being a business owner, and I love the fact that we were operating fully online, and I became really good friends with some of the people that we were operating with, as well as our members. We would do like local meetups in 2021 and meet up with our members and trade with them in person, make money, and then go enjoy the rest of our vacation. So that was a really, really cool experience. Here's the problem. With day trading, 80% of your members lose money. Give this screen a second, it's loading here. But 80% of your members lose money, okay? Reason being is you could still call the best signals in the world. If they happen to get out early or they lose on the previous trade, they'll start to do what's called revenge trading, and they'll do things without your instructions. And so they start doing things, it's kind of like a gambler that like says, I need to make my money back, and he keeps going back to the ATM, and before you know it, he's lost all of his money, right? It's kind of like that, right? And I'll tell you guys why I was in this business for 2 years. That first year was really cool. We had people making hundreds of thousands of dollars, paying us $150 a month, quitting their jobs. It was so amazing and rewarding to see that. Of course, not everybody makes money, but the majority of our people were making money because if you remember, 2021 was a bull market. Everything was just skyrocketing. We just bought calls and just made a ton of money on the breakouts and pullbacks. The problem was in 2022, the market started going sideways. And if you know anything about day trading, day traders lose money on options when it goes sideways because they expire or they start to lose value, right? And so here I was in a position where first year was great. I felt really great about what I did. Second year, I started to feel really bad because majority of our people were losing money while I was getting rich off the subscriptions. I'm not afraid to admit that to you guys, right? And that's actually why I sold my share of the business and I got out. And actually, so this was my first business. And then once I wanted to exit, I started doing Amazon FBA as an exit strategy. Once I fully left the business, I was really only working maybe 10, 15 hours a week. Then I started Airbnb. And then when Airbnb went to shit, I focused on Amazon full time. I would say last year around 2024 is when I started dealing with all of these issues with the Section 3. People were losing hundreds of thousands of dollars in Amazon, getting their money stuck. And that's when I decided, hey, you know what? I'm already kind of doing credit and funding as a hobby. I need to take this full time. So I hired my first mentor in September 2024. And let me list out the pros and cons, right? Credit repair and funding, it's fully online, very high margin business. Okay? When I was a one-man team, my margins were anywhere from 80 to 95%. Reason being is I had no employees, I had nobody, I was running everything by myself. I ran the sales calls, I ran fulfillment, I ran marketing, I did everything by myself. And I can tell you, I think last September I was doing like 5 to 10K a month. And then by January 2025, which was 4 months after my first mentorship, I hit my first $50,000 month. And I think I took home about $38,000. That was the most money I had ever made in my life, and that was only 4 months into taking this full time. Now, I did have an issue, and here's one of the cons, right? Finding clients is the hardest part, not with credit repair, but funding, because we can only fund people who are qualified with good personal credit. It's not just about having a 700 plus credit score. They need good credit limits. So if they don't have, they have $5,000 in total limits, the chances of getting funding are very, very slim. We usually look for about 15 to 25K in personal credit card limits. All right, so February comes around and we drop to 15K. And this was when I knew I had a problem. I had one of the best months of my entire life. And then the next month we dropped 60, 70% in revenue, right? And that is when I actually realized, okay, I need to create a consistent lead generation system, and this is where I started running ads. Okay? Now, one thing I can say is this business is very, very rewarding. It is one of the pros of it. When you fix people's credit, they're in a really bad position. They haven't managed their money well. Their credit is bad. They don't have access to a lot of the things that they would like to access, such as business funding at 0% interest, a mortgage that they can't get approved for, they can't buy their dream car, or they can't get approved for that apartment that they want. On the flip side, funding, right? We're essentially a middleman where we help people get funding so that they can start or scale their business. So it's really rewarding because I've had some situations where we get a client credit fixed and then they're able to buy their dream home. Or on the flip side, I've had people come to me and they're stuck because they're at a certain point in their business, but they can't quit their job because they're not making enough. It's a side hustle. We get them the funding, they start making 10, 20, 30K profit months, then they can quit their job and go full time into the business world. So with that, it seems to be it is a very rewarding style of business because it is service-based and we're offering a really necessary service. Okay? The cons, I would say the main con is finding clients, right? Now, the great thing is I figured out how to run faceless AI ads to my landing page. Now, my landing page does have my face on it, but you can run faceless AI ads without blasting your face all over social media. And I figured out how to do that at a very profitable rate. And so numbers essentially kind of look like this. I would say it's anywhere from 1,000 to 1.5 thousand for a signed client. Now this is strictly on the funding side, guys. Credit repair, I don't even run ads for. It pretty much builds itself. I do about $10,000 to $20,000 a month with credit repair without running a single ad. I do post on my social media, but if you know, I don't really have that many followers. And then on the funding side, right, we do run ads for, and it's about 1 to 1.5K to get your client. And that's one thing that I love is you can build a predictable lead generation system to get consistent signed clients, and then we fund them, and we usually make anywhere from, I would say, $5,000 to $15,000 per client. So one of the biggest cons of this funding business is how much we make per client. Right? If somebody wants $100,000 in 0% interest funding, we'll make $10,000 off of that. So you're telling me you wouldn't spend $1,500? Let's just estimate higher. You're telling me you wouldn't spend $1,500 to make, a conservative number of $5,000 per client? You're still going to be net profitable $3,500. Now I'm painting worst case scenario for you guys. On average, I would say we spend about $1,000 to $1,500. It varies. And then in terms of how much we fund on average, it's about $80,000. On average, we'll make $8,000. So, at 1.5K cost, $8,000 in net profit or gross profit, gross revenue, I should say. We're spending 1.5K to make 6.5K, okay? Pretty much making someone's really good monthly salary off just one client. Imagine what 3 clients can do to you. Imagine what one client can do for you when you get them $150,000, right? This is a business that has very high margins. You can scale to $50,000 months by yourself, no problem. I know plenty of people that are essentially doing it, and the floor for this is really, really high, right? Most people doing Amazon, they're probably right around that $5,000 to $15,000 range. I would say with the credit repair and funding business, most people I know in that business are doing 20K minimum per month. They're probably taking home anywhere from 15 to 17,000 depending on their affiliate program. That's one of the things that we do to get clients is we pay referral fees. So we pay 20%. Let's just say we fund 100K. That person pays us $10,000. If someone sends them to us, we pay them $2,000. Think of it as an acquisition or marketing cost. At the end of the day, money talks. You want to give them a reason to work with you. All right. Now, the greatest part about all of these businesses is that they're fully online, but this has been my most profitable business. And I want to kind of explain something to you guys as well, right? January, we hit 50K off of 3 referrals, right? We funded each one about 150K, and then we funded one guy 50K. So it was 50K cash collected. I had to pay out some referral fees, but we kind of shit ourselves in February, only 15,000. And this is where running ads was the game changer for us, okay? April 2025, we do 40,000 running our own ads. March, I hired somebody. He was terrible. We fired him. We started running our own ads, and we don't see our money till afterwards, you know, when you're running ads, because you got to run the ads, get the clients, fulfill, then invoice them. $40,000. May 2025, $77,000 running ads on our own, right? Net profit on this was about $58,000. So this is the insane power of credit repair and funding being a service-based business model where people need us. And I'll tell you guys something about this business model, right? Amazon, I mean, we're just selling products, great, right? Airbnb, we can see people are starting to really hate Airbnb because the operators are asking them to do chores before they leave and then charge you $300 cleaning fee. It sounds crazy. People are getting really turned off to the Airbnb, right? With the day trading Discord, very, very profitable. Do it if you don't have a soul, because you're going to be making a shit ton of money while most of your members are losing their life savings. So this is why I got out of it. With the credit repair and funding business, one, it's very rewarding, and two, right, there's always going to be a need. Credit scores are not going anywhere. There's a new 18-year-old that is essentially going to be getting a credit score every single day, and unfortunately, I think it's a statistic, 60 to 70% of America has bad credit. So that need for fixing credit's not going anywhere. We're also in a time where people don't want to work for others anymore. That 9-to-5 business model or concept is dying. Everybody wants to be a business owner. Everybody, right? There's a huge shift in culture right now in the United States. So what does that mean? Well, if they want to start their business, they need money. And who can help them? We can. And if you're wondering, well, why can't they just go get the money themselves? We aren't taught the information of how to go into a bank and get money. You don't have the data points, you don't have the connections, you don't have the experience or knowledge. And I have so many clients that get on calls with me and say, well, why can't I just apply on my own? What's so special about you? What difference does it make, right? I can apply on chase.com myself. Of course, there's nothing stopping you from clicking those buttons, but do you know what numbers to put in there? Right? Do you have the connections to apply directly with a banker and get high limit approvals? Do you know which banks are going to ask you for documents and not ask you for documents? This is where we as funding specialists can come in, step in, and help these people acquire capital with no revenue, with no bank statements, with no tax returns. We're able to get them up to $150,000 in 0% interest funding without having that proof. Okay, so this is why I think credit repair and funding is the best business model in 2025. If you're interested in starting your own business, right, you can click the link below, schedule a call with my team, see if we're a good fit. We do a done-for-you service where we build out your entire funnel. We'll build out your landing page. We'll teach you how to run AI ads. We'll do one-on-one calls directly with me. You don't get passed off to some random coach. But ultimately, guys, I just really, really believe that this is the best business model. And in this year alone, I'm about to buy a house. I'm about a week away from closing on a house. I bought my dream watch here. This is a rose gold olive dial day date presidential. I bought a M3 Competition X Drive. It's crazy to see how quickly my life has changed in the span of running this business. And I never have to worry about the platform ban. I never have to be worried about somebody shutting my business down overnight because some bullshit happened. Anyways, I really appreciate you guys watching this video. If you like this content, hit the subscribe button. I'm also going to be posting more videos about how to build your credit and really understanding that world of credit, using credit card points to travel for free, etc. So make sure you hit that follow button, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.